Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Detour podcast. I'm your host, Dan Jones, joined by four-time national road champion Johnny Trevorrow, voice of cycling Phil Liggett, and head DS for Bike Exchange Jaco Matt White. Look, guys, it's a bit of a somber edition of the show because we're going to be paying tribute to Dean Woods, who unfortunately passed away today. He was All of Australia medalist, had the award in 1985 for services as cycling. He's Olympic gold medalist, multiple Commonwealth Games medalist. But I personally didn't know Dean, but you only have to look at the effect he has had on so many people in the cycling community. And, the outpouring today particularly has been immense because he was that sort of person. And I'll start off with you, Johnny. It's obviously, time to reflect. He's only 55, but he, as I said, he had a profound impact on a lot of people in the sport.
Yeah, you did right, mate. It actually knocked me around quite a bit, and he was such a super guy. I mean, the word legend gets bandied around all the time. Even I get called a bloody legend, but there are seriously only a handful of legends in Australian cycling, and Dean Woods was definitely one. He just turned 18 when he won that gold medal in LA in '84. Australia won the team pursuit, beat the Americans in that final. He only got beaten by a bloody 15th for the individual as well. He ended up getting beaten by, I think, a couple of hundredths for the bronze medal by some dubious other athletes. At the next Olympics, they got a bronze medal in the team's pursuit, and I think that was Scotty McGrory's was in that team. They got the bronze medal, and Dean just got pipped for the gold medal in the individual pursuit. So he was a superstar. World record holder for the 4,000 meters, as you mentioned, gold medalist. But what stands out to me, why I'm quite so moved, because he was such an absolutely sensational bloke, just a knockabout, really good guy who was, I always reckon he should have been a Collingwood supporter, black and white, but he barracked for the Saints for some reason, bit of red in there. But for those overseas, they were black and white, the Collingwood. But he said everything as it was. He saw everything in black and white. There was no grey. That's the way it was. Bang, he's very strong in his convictions.
It sounds like you, John.
Yeah, no, he's a real decent bloke, this guy. But look, and so today, I probably, to say I'm a good mate of Dean's is probably not right. I hadn't seen much of him over the last few years. But if he walked in here now, we'd be cuddling and having a chat and a laugh because that was the friendship we had. But I've been very close with his brother Paul. He's got the pie man from Inverloch, and so I've been really close with what's been happening over the last few weeks. Paul's went there on the weekend. On Saturday, Dean went into palliative care, but his mind was still there. And so his close mates, Brett Dutton and Wayne McCartney have been talking with him on the phone all the time. Dutto was only up with him last week. Wayne McCartney was flying up there tomorrow to see him. Pat McCucci, just talked to Wayne McCartney just a few minutes ago, and he said Pat McCucci rang Paul yesterday to say, tell Dean I'm flying up there tomorrow to see him. And at that time, Paul Woods was with his brother because Dean was up on the Gold Coast and Paul had flown up with their dad, Des, who's in his 90s, to see him. And you know what Dean said? He said, no, tell him not to fly up tomorrow. I tell him I'll see him next week in Wang, which they're having the funeral in Wangaratta because that's where he's from. So he knew. And he was completely comfortable with it. So, it's just a terrible story. When Dutto was there last week, he said, because he's just written a book, which will be a very interesting book, all about, some of those things with Charlie Walsh and all that, lots of controversial things, because Dean was close with Charlie. And so it'll be interesting to see how all that comes out. But he said to Dutto, the book and my funeral are probably the launch and the book are probably going to come out the same day. So he knew exactly what was going on.
Now, Whitey, we've only got you for another 20 minutes. You're a busy man, but did you have much to do with Dean over the journey?
Oh, I didn't have too much personally to do with Dean. We're sort of missed generations there, but what I had to do with Dean is when I was a young fella growing up, obviously watching the Olympics was a big highlight of any young kid's year, and every 4 years the Olympics, and every 4 years the Commonwealth Games. And I remember as a 10-year-old watching the boys win the teams pursuit teams pursuit gold medal in Los Angeles, and it was a very, very inspiring moment for me as a young athlete to see something that had never been done by Australia before, and it certainly had an influence on my career and interest to get into cycling.
Well,
I had met
Dean
multiple times over the years, but he sort of got out of track cycling as I came into track cycling, and our professional careers didn't match up. But really knew who he was and heard a lot of positive things about him.
Can you remember this moment, Phil?
Oh, I was right there in the centre of the track calling it. It's 1984. I just saw the shot there of the next president of the United States Cycling Federation, Mike Frazee, looking very concerned there for the American squad. He was the manager of the squad, as the Aussies really. This is the front line of the resurgence of Australian track riding and the way it was to go for the next 25, 30 years. I liked Dean a lot. I found him an extremely friendly guy. He was a straightforward guy. And this particular team pursuit, well, Mike Turt was aboard there as well. We often talk about it. Mike Turt has lived on that gold medal for years until he became the organizer of the Tour Down Under. Mike will be very, very upset by this news. I've only known what you've told me in the last 5 minutes. I've heard nothing at all because we're early morning here. I didn't even know, and I'm ashamed to say it, that Dean was so ill. Because I did see a lot of him, but not in the last probably 15 years. Our paths didn't cross. I remember Dean was very, very proud when Wangaratta permanently decorated the entrance town signs with his achievements, his medals, all printed up. The home of Dean Woods with his medal tally on the town signboards. He was an icon, and this is Frazee.
That's the get up. I love it.
Oh, it looks about 1984, doesn't it? It's pretty hot there too in Mission Viejo on the track there. Yeah. Inside the town. But I'm terribly sad. He was, as you said, Matty, so young to go. It's really sad. And Dean was. I went cycling with him quite a lot when I was in my early days, going to Australia. We used to always run up against him. We used to go out for a ride. And big, strong guy, always friendly, and could just do it. And I
love the celebrations when they just throw the helmets into the crowd. Like, that's it.
We've disqualified now.
But yeah. I mean, how big a moment was that in Australian cycling history, Iffy?
That was huge, mate. That was huge. You know, Michael Grendar, Kev Nichols, Mike Turner, and Dean Woods, who only just turned 18 in the weeks leading up. But he was the wonder kid, so that was a huge moment. And Charlie Walsh, that was the start of Australia's emergence. But part of it was Woodsy himself. I mean, he also almost medalled in the individual pursuit. Remember, he just turned 18. He got beaten for the bronze medal by 400ths or something like that, and almost won the semi-final as well. So he was right there. And then the next Olympics, they got the bronze medal in the team pursuit, and he just got beaten in the final individual pursuit. So, he was just a young superstar.
Very, very.
And as you said, Whitey, the effect of those results for you as a 10-year-old, I mean, it's immense. Is it these sort of moments is what really ignites the passion that could take you on a journey and look at where you are today?
100%. If those guys hadn't have won and there was another sport I was watching, maybe my ambition and drive went into another sport. But something captivated me in Los Angeles, and Dean Woods was certainly a big part of that. And he, like Johnny said, he'd just come from Junior World Championships. Went from winning the Junior Worlds across to the Olympic Games, and was part of something that still is and will always be very, very special in Australian cycling. Yeah.
Now, as we said, Whitey, you've got to head off soon, but we do have Strada Bianchi coming up, and some of the big news is Michael Matthews is going to be making his debut. We know how much Bling loves the area and obviously Tuscany, and I think he got married there, and that's another story. But how's Bling shaping up for his debut?
He's going well, mate. So Bling started his season in Mallorca with some pretty handy little results. And then, like a few guys in our team in early February, he actually got COVID. But fortunately for him, he had a very, very short turnaround. And he spent 3 weeks up in Sierra Nevada training. The first week was pretty easy with his COVID. and then he bounced back very quickly, and he's starting a big block of racing, which starts on Saturday, then into Tirreno, Milan San Remo, and some other races all the way through till the age best on the age. So he's got a very busy 6 to 7 weeks coming up, but it is his first race, which is a strange one. He always used to do Paris-Nice with us, and then also I guess with Sunweb, and I think he's only done Tirreno once in his career. But it's a race that certainly does suit his characteristics. It'll be very, very interesting, even though it's his first attempt, to see how he goes on Saturday.
Now I know that you're I've got a lot of weight behind the Paris-Nice, which I think is a Sunday Paris-Nice start.
Correct.
Sunday or
correct,
Monday?
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday.
And so that's the first real big hit out for Simon Yates. He raced all right last week at Semitana or whatever it's called. But you and I both believe he can win the Giro. And so the Paris-Nice is going to be very important for that build-up. So how is his form right now?
Really good, really good. So touch wood, he stayed healthy. He was 5th on GC in Ruta del Sol 10 days ago. Everything's gone well post race. And like you said, Johnny, we're going there with dual ambitions. We've got Dylan Groenewegen for the first 3 stages, which are completely flat. Then we've got a very short time trial, about 12, 13 kilometres, that sort of splits the race in half. And then after that, we've got 4 pretty tough stages on our way from the middle of France down to Nice. And I think he'll be one of the favourites for Paris. I think Primož Roglic will definitely go in as the favourite. I think in the last 3 years, the worst place he's finished in any stage race he started is 4th place that he hasn't crashed out of or been injured. So he's going to go in. I've seen the start list they've got for Jumbo-Visma. He's going to be the favourite. But I think the interesting fact as well is we're going to see Adam Yates racing against Simon, which is the first time we've seen that for a long, long time. He's leading Ineos. So it will be an interesting week. And obviously with Paris-Nice, you're at the mercy of spring weather. But I looked at the short-range forecast for the weekend. It looks very good in Paris, actually. We're looking at 8-9 degrees and sunny. So Paris-Nice, the first 3 days can have it can be crosswinds. There can be bitingly cold weather. But so far, so good for the first couple of days of Paris. And really excited to get the show on the road.
Now, I heard from Little Birdies, you got new bikes this year, and they are very, very happy with them. Some of the riders are saying this some of the best bikes they've ever ridden. Yeah, no, I would definitely. Your sources are correct there, Dan.
Yes.
We are on new bikes, and they're considerably lighter than what we have been on, and the boys are very, very happy with them. Look, Giant's a big company, one of the biggest bike manufacturers in the world. And there's a couple of different models that the guys are on. Dylan's on the sprint bike and Luca, but the majority of the team on the TCR. And they are very happy. And there's certainly been no complaints this year with the bikes, and more than happy to have that feedback from the guys. The bikes are such an important and an integral part of what they're doing. And to have a company like Giant backing us for the next few years it's really exciting.
Now, the problem of having a good bike is you need a good Rottweiler, because we don't want these things getting knocked off, stage 3. What's your security protocol at Paris, mate? Because I'm not gonna pot the country, but they are well-planned attacks. I've seen it happen.
There has been the south of France. There has been a few teams been raided over the years in some of the smaller races and Paris-Nice. But actually, a funny story. One of our neo-pros, a Swiss young fella, Alex Balmer, he's actually injured at the moment. He's in Turin at one of the medical clinics getting treated, and he thought it was a good idea. I don't know where he was going, maybe out to dinner. And his only mode of transport, well, besides a taxi, was his race bike, which is his training bike. So he rode his bike from his accommodation to a restaurant and parked it up out the front, locked it up, came out of the restaurant, and his €12,000 bike was gone. It was stolen. Someone cut the locks and left the lock, and his €12,000 bike had been robbed. Anyway, probably shouldn't have ridden it to dinner. But anyway, he in downtown Turin with a bike that expensive. But anyway, he went to the police, and lo and behold, 24 hours later, the police found it. The nufty who stole it must have gone to cash converters, tried to offload it quickly, and they found his bike in perfect nick. So he got it back 24 hours later.
They paid $10 back for it. Yeah,
and paid $10 back for it. Yes, and from now on, he'd be catching cabs around Turin.
I did that to Damien Housen in Ballarat that year, just to teach him a lesson, because him and Bewley went in for a coffee, and I thought, what are they doing, leaving their bikes not even locked? And so I grabbed it, put it in the van, and drove back to the hotel, and just let him stew on it. Let's just say he didn't find it funny.
No,
it was a very big
the thing is now it's a professional business now, Steve.
Yeah.
So it's not just like the old days. Do you have security now? Do the team start bringing in 24-hour security? Thinking of doing
a lot of the races now feel they'll hire security overnight at the hotels, or they'll be working on 3 hotels in an area, and they'll just pay a visit to the hotels like that. But I remember, Jonesy, there was a period there where service courses in Italy were getting knocked off.
Oh yeah.
And
the roof, Mission Impossible style.
Yeah, but it was. All jokes aside, there was there's probably 5 teams, World Tour teams, service course within 100K radius across the top of Italy there, and there was people coming into service courses. And in our instance, they were going through one time they went through the roof. So they cut a hole in the Perplex roof, dropped the camera in to see where the security was, and then they lowered themselves because the security wasn't picking up things in the air. It was only picking up movement on the ground. And there was one time that a part of our service course got broken into. Remember, they loaded one of the vans with as many bikes as they could fit. One van went out one way, another van, they put bikes out through the back end of the service course, and actually the van had a stop, like a remote stop on it, and they found the van and the bikes on the highway about 15 kilometres down the road. So they got all those bikes back. They just missed another 20 bikes, but we had to bump our security up considerably because our service course was getting hit multiple times. And there was one service course, I won't name the team, but they found their bikes online in an Eastern Bloc country within 24 hours later. So they were talking about, they were professional hit squads that were coming in, hitting casing the joints, hitting their service course, driving out with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bikes, and then they were selling them online in parts of the Eastern Europe that couldn't be traced.
Well, the most shocking part about that story is when they captured that bus with the bikes and looked at the GPS, it was programmed to Craig Geeta's house. So there could have been an inside job, but anyway, he got away with that. But
it's funny. It's funny. I want you talking about that. We had talked to one of your mechanics with the women's
Carl Pilkington.
Team. No, Wayne Nichols, and Nico remembered a Sun Tour he rode that I was riding. So we crossed over back in those days, and he remembers we were at St Arnaud or somewhere in the bush in Victoria, and they thought they'd fixed me up. They pinched my bike and hid it that night. And the next morning, just before the start, they then brought it out of hiding and gave it back to me. And I didn't even know it was missing, so it backfired.
You and your bike were like this, Johnny. You and your bike were like this. And the extension of your...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One last comment from Free Ranger for you, and I'll get a few of the other comments after the break. He wants to know, Twitter article quoting Peter Sagan as saying the peloton lacks respect for the older riders. What's Matty's take on this? I think he was talking about getting peed on in a race and all that sort of stuff.
I read that article and I was gobsmacked, and I can't wait to see the boys on the weekend and ask him if that's true, because there's different amounts of respect in the bunch, but if that's true, that's up to the riders to call the shots on that one. That is ridiculous, and it does show no respect. And I'll be surprised. I don't know if that's happened one off Peter, but I've never heard of our riders talking about that sort of disrespect. But that's disgusting. And I'll be clipping blokes over the back of the head if I saw that happen in front of me or on me.
Oh yeah, Hayfield handshake every day of the week if you get the golden jersey.
Not on. That is not on.
I can't believe it, really.
No.
Yeah.
If you were a commissaire, Phil, and you saw that back in the day, what would have been the punishment?
It's a good decision. I don't recall the rule for it, actually, in my day.
I don't get the rule book. It's gut shot.
Common sense.
It brings a new meaning to taking the piss. I know that. Yeah.
Simon Knowles says, great to see Whitey. Really looking forward to the upcoming season. Best cycling podcast bar none. Good on you, Knowlesy. Every episode. Thanks for joining us, Whitey. We better let you go, mate. Got another call, and all the best for Paris-Nice.
Hey, good luck for the year, Matty.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, it's a very, very big month, the month of March. We've got Paris-Nice, Tirano, Strada, Catalunya, Milan, San Remo. It's all happening. Very big month.
Making me very jealous.
We'll be checking in, and all the best, mate. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, gents. See you soon.
Johnny Whitey.
See you, mate.
Take it easy, mate.
Yeah.
Righto, fellas, it's time for a quick drinks break. When we come back, more Detour Live.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours. And the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Are you dreaming of the ultimate cycling holiday? Mumu Cycling is the best in the business. Official tour operators for all Grand Tours and monuments, you will ride the best climbs, enjoy VIP access and race viewing, all hosted by some of the world's best pros, including 17-time Tour de France rider and Paris-Roubaix champion Stuart O'Grady. Start planning your ultimate holiday at www.mumucycling.com.
Thanks again to Bike Exchange. Remember, mumucycling.com. They've got tours available for the Giro, and the great John Trevorrow will be there, and he'll be telling yarns, and most of them are true, some not.
Well, you know what? No, that's not true, because I have so many yarns. Why do I have to make them up? They're all there.
No. You've got so many yarns that I've heard them every time, and they keep getting better because you'll add a bit more pepper and salt. It's great.
Anyway, the one thing, look, the one thing about Dean Woods passing today, it makes you reflect, and it makes you realise it's sad but true, but we're all born with a terminal disease, and we're all going to go. But when something tragic like this happens with Dean when he's so young, it makes you reevaluate things a little bit. So, you know what? That's why I'm going to the Giro. That's why I'm going to the Tour. Just do it. Now, I know that they filled those two tickets to the Classics, but I was talking to Marcel today, and they've increased. So there's another couple of spots available. So if you want to come over for the Classics, not far away, you can still get in there. And it's really
just do it.
Yeah. Meet with Eddie Merckx and one of the Schlecks, Tommy Boonen, Johan Mezot. That's still available. And then, of course, get over to the Giro. The first week, there's still a couple of spots. I think there's 4 spots available for the first week of the Giro, which is going to be great. I'm looking forward to that, starting in Budapest. I haven't been to Hungary, so it's going to be amazing. And I'm sure you have, Phil. But, the beauty of Mumu is it's guaranteed. A lot of these companies are worrying at the moment. Can they do? They're going. You jump on board with Mumu, you get guaranteed great accommodation, full support, feel like a pro, be up there on the finished podium, go to all the official functions. It's going to be sensational. So come and join us at Mumu.
All right, I've got a few comments I want to rattle through. Gary Tilley, rest in peace, dear friend. And if you've got any stories that you want to share with connection to Dean, post them up and we'll have a chat.
Yeah.
Tom Maloney, very sad, rip Dean, a champion guy and a cyclist. He will be sadly missed, especially by those looking to reform in Australian cycling. Porsche Griffiths says he was a champion to watch. I can remember watching him at Hanson Road in Adelaide. Skull says, sad news indeed. We've got the Will Wizard. He says, rip Dean Woods, total respect, too young. And then Ian Thomas, it would be interesting to hear your takes on the sanctions on Gazprom and other Russian links in the peloton, including riders. That's another side story, but latest update.
We'll get to that in a
minute. Yep.
Yeah.
But as you said, there's been an outpouring of grief, and for obvious reasons.
Well, look, I was talking to Jerry Ryan earlier, who was a big fan of Dino, and Dean joined his original Jayco team back in 1993.
Yeah, he did.
And Jerry was talking about going to a function. Gary Boylan, who was managing that team, organised this function with a lot of big hitters up at the Victoria Club, and they're all talking about this. But the professionalism of Dean, watching him, what he was eating, and he got up and spoke, and was so into the minute parts of his training and his diet and all of that. And he said, and he was setting himself for the Warrnambool. Now, he'd already set the record for the Warrnambool 3 years earlier, which will never, average of 51 kilometres an hour. He'll never get beaten. Roar and Tar wind. There you are. There's a photo of that Jayco team. Dave McFarlane there. There's Woodsy. Gary Boylan to the right, the manager. Paul Regari, it looks like Big Dave Sanders in the middle, I think, if I can read that rightly, correctly. But I think it is. Skinnier.
Clyde Sefton, isn't it?
Is that skin? Oh, it could be Clyde, is it? I can't read that. Oh,
yeah, I've read
Clyde.
it in the corner.
It is Clyde. Yeah. But so anyway, he really admired Jerry's watch. Jerry had a beautiful watch, of course. And he said to Dino, he said, tell you what, you win the Warrnambool and you can have this watch. Well, sure enough, he won the bloody Warrnambool, didn't he? So probably a Rolex or something, and Jerry had to hand it over. And I remember Gary Boylan, he had, because Jerry had one of the first mobile phones. No one had mobile phones back in those days. They were like
a house brick.
A house brick with a phone on top. And he gave it to Gary Boylan for the day. He said, because he was at the start, but he couldn't get it to be in at the finish in Warney. So he said, you ring me the minute you get across the finish line. Ring me. So here is Gary Boylan with the half a brick ringing Jerry to tell him, you just lost your watch, mate. So we're talking about today.
Wow,
a nice story. But but it's interestingly, there's a character named Andrew Blackmore who does a Freddie Friday piece on Facebook, and it's a bit of a laugh most of the time, and he is a character. He can't really spell that well, but everyone expects that from Blackie. But done some wonderful yarns over the time. But he lives up the Gold Coast, and he friendly, with very close friends with Paul Woods, but he's friendly with Dean, and so he got Dean to do a piece only about 2 weeks ago. And it was a real lovely piece. And Dean quite spoke. He said, we'll do part 2 the following week. Well, Dean got really sick before the second week. So he rang me up and said, look, we're going to do another piece on Dean, but he's not well enough to do it. So Paul Woods, the brother, wrote a beautiful piece. I talked about the young days and things I didn't realise. I remember racing at Wang, and you'd go around to the Woods family house to Des and Joyce for a coffee or whatever. I remember this 10, 12-year-old kid running around with curly hair. That was Dean. Well, he was a great young footballer. I think he kicked 10 goals from the centre as a 10-year-old. He was the best swimmer at the school, runner, no matter what he did. And then he started racing as a 12-year-old, won his first bike race, a bit of a Russell Mockridge type story. And Paul told the story of a junior race where they were a race at Wang where they put the juniors and that in with the seniors. And he could feel Dean coming around the outside, and he's 3 years younger, mind you. He said, so I've gone as wide, and Wang used to be a dirt track. I've gone as wide as I could trying to stop him, but he kept coming around the outside. And I thought I just beat him. But Mum was one of the judges, and she called it a dead heat. I love the story. And he said, I never, ever beat him again. And Paul was a serious cyclist, like in the Australian Institute of Sport for a while up in Adelaide and all that. So he was a good cyclist. So I never beat him again. He was on the way up. So that was the type of kid he was, Yeah.
Simon Knowles says, was lucky enough to be able to offer Dean a billet during the Tasmanian Christmas Carnival season during his Junior World Championship year through Graham McVilly. Now, that was a common thing back in the day. People would get billeted out all the time, Iffy.
Yeah, very much so. And we used to do that in Sun Tours. With all the Sun Tours I rode, we didn't stay in hotels. We stayed in people's homes. And I've still got friends from that, surprisingly.
Yeah. Wendy Superfan says, rest in peace, Dean. And Kim Dixon says, I remember our family sitting up to watch the Team Pursuit gold medal ride in LA in 1984 and how excited we were. Phil, it was interesting to hear Whitey's take. Like, if he wasn't watching that race as a 10-year-old, his trajectory of his life could have been different. It's amazing how these iconic moments can change people's course of their whole life.
Well, yeah, not just for the Australians. It was the birth, or the rebirth, if you like, of Australians at the top of the game in track cycling. Charlie Walsh had broken them through and brought a gold medal winning team in 1984. They were outstanding. The Americans, by the way, got themselves into a little bit of trouble. They had the finest games where they won 9 medals, and then it was discovered they were changing their blood at night in the hotels, which at the time was not illegal, but it was certainly unethical. So it made the Aussies look even better when they just smashed the Americans in that final. I fell in love with Australia from that moment on. And of course, as you know, thanks to people like John and Phil Bates up in Sydney, I finally found Australia in 1988. And after that, I became sort of adopted by the Australians. And one of the very first people I met and made real good friends with in those early years was Dean Woods. And I thought, what a nice guy this guy is. And as I said earlier, he was ever so proud the town had decorated the town centre signboards as you enter the city limits, saying home of Dean Woods, the Olympic cyclist, gold medalist. It was tremendous. And I'm stunned. I didn't know till 30 seconds before I came online, which was just half an hour ago, that this had all happened. And I'm very, very sad.
Well, Tom Maloney, if he was talking about, it's a shame, particularly being missed with those looking to reform Australian cycling. I mean, we talk about so many of these rich legends that are associated with the sport. I mean, how important do you think it is moving forward to connect with some of these guys from yesteryear? Because you see it now, like what profound effect it has on people connected inside the sport.
Yeah, well, Dean wasn't backward and coming forward, I can tell you. So there have been plenty of posts on social media where he's been giving.
Got the one wood out.
He got the one wood out on many occasions, and and I felt that people in Oz Cycling should have been getting Dean on board to listen to what he had to say. Interestingly. He and Scott McGrory, remembering that Dean was the 18-year-old that rode in the Olympics in '84 and won the gold medal. Scott McGrory was the 18-year-old who was in the team 4 years later in '88, and they got the bronze medal. I think Scotty didn't ride the final; he rode the semi-final, so he got his bronze medal. But more recently, they had a little bit of a falling out because, Scotty had on social media had got stuck into Charlie Walsh a little bit, and Dean was a very, very strong champion of anything to do with Charlie.
So you got Charlie black and whites together.
Well, yes, and exactly right. And people who step back and see both sides of that story. But so anyway. Scotty wrote a piece on social media, and Dean had a bit of a go at Scotty coming back, and they had a bit of falling out over it. And just when Dean got so sick, just last week, Scotty, it might have been 2 weeks ago, Scotty sent him a message saying, "Really sorry to hear that you're not well, mate. Thinking of you and all of that." And he sent a beautiful message back to Scott. Actually, I'll grab it up and I might read a little bit of it because it's really something. It just explains a little bit about who Dean Woods is and what he's all about. He said, "Hi, Scott, thank you for your kind words. Life will always be full of ups and downs, but we must be honest with that. what we have to face. Some races we win, but others we unfortunately can't. So this is the race. Unfortunately for me, the hill is too steep. It's been a pleasure being a teammate with you over the years, and certainly part of my development, and you certainly were a contributor to being the best I could be. Keep up the commentary with the big stations, and he talked about how well Scotty's going. Once again, thank you. The message means a lot. Now, that was pretty special from Dino, you know, and it just shows you the type of person that Dean Woods, yeah, well, I've got to say was now, because, you know, it's something pretty special. And I know, you know, our thoughts are with Megan and the kids. Yeah, it's just a terrible time. But he was really, not say comfortable with it, but handle it so well. To talk to Paul just before, I was texting and talking to Paul, and I got a message from Paul who just left the airport. He said, well, he's not too good. I can't get to see him today. He and his dad, Des, were flying back to Victoria. And he said, but, you know, they've got him pretty well sedated. And then about an hour later, I knew what the phone call was as I saw his name pop up to say me, sorry, mate, he's gone. That was pretty bad.
There's a message from Paris Woods, says, thank you, everyone, for the love, support, and messages during this difficult time. Love the Woods family. So
Yeah,
that's pretty special.
Yeah, well, that's Paris is Dean's daughter, so pretty special. Yeah,
I can only imagine how Charlie Walsh is feeling as well, because Charlie's still there back home in South Australia, and
oh yeah, he'd be gutted. He'd be gutted. Yeah. I mean, these guys, you know, look, there's two sides. Charlie was an amazing coach. He was the person who changed everything for Australian cycling. Now, there was a lot of people who get, you know, reckon it was too hard and whatever, and he was after. But hey, that's what Charlie was. And
got the results.
There's
You've seen it now. You've seen it with Justin Langer. It's all sports. If you get a coach or someone that is really direct and really hard down the line, you're going to have the pockets that go, well, I like it because it gets the best out of me. There's others that go, no, he's too hard. Like, you know. So. Yeah, but is there anything you want to add, Iffy, before we sort of wrap things up?
Not really. Just a reminder. We were supposed to do a bit more. I was supposed to bring a few people today, sponsors and all of that, but I got sort of sidetracked a bit. But you know, we've got the Amy Gillett Foundation Giving Day next week, Thursday, 10th of March. You and I will be there, Dan.
Now, I botched this up last time. Do you want to read out how they can donate to the Detour page?
www.charity, which is CHARIDY.com/AGF/58089. So Dan and I are personally putting in a few $100s each, because that's the type of guys we are. Oh, and remembering...
I got news. Guess what else is happening that day? I'm going on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's going live that night at 5 o'clock. So if anyone wants to tune in and see me on Millionaire Hot Seat with the great Eddie Maguire, I'm bound by an NDA. I can't say what happens, but there's going to be some laughs because, I went in hot. So check that out.
Well, if he wins it, we'll put in a lot more than a couple of $100. So, to the AGF. Yeah. But anyway, so we want people to get behind us. Dan and I will be there. It'll be a lot of fun. We're going to do a live podcast from the function in Melbourne. Yeah,
we'll do it about 3 o'clock, I think, 3 o'clock p.m., because that's in the thick of when the VIPs will be firing up. So it should be a lot of fun.
A special day. And remembering what this is all about. It's a giving day. But what Australian, the Amy Gillett Foundation is about cycling safety. And they've really got a campaign going at the moment, working with the councils on how to improve the roads. But I've got to tell you, I was out there again today, and I ride down to my a little circuit where I met my mates, and it's a criterion closed roads. But I've got to get to it, and getting to it is always a challenge. There's still cars that come too close. Now, Amy Gillett are the ones who forced the metre matters to 1.5 metre matters, even better now, into Australia. And so they're on the forefront. So let's get behind them, help them take cycling safety to the next level, which is what they're all about.
By the way, it's now become a law in the UK as of this year. It slipped in very quietly, but they've maximised the publicity since. This is the government. It's now 2 meters if you pass a horse, and 1.5 if you pass a cyclist. The clearance must be given. And,
horse is more important than a cyclist. That
well, it also tends to do unpredictable things, more so than those wonderful cyclists who don't do anything wrong on the road.
Some of those small roads in England, to go a metre outside cyclists, you'd be running into the hedge on the other side of the road.
Yeah, you're bound to have a head-on collision with the vehicle coming the other way. So the answer is don't pass till the road's clear or on a bend. But yeah, you're right. Our roads are only a maximum of 3.5 meters wide, most of the ones around here. So, and the day of the cycling club is facing a renaissance here in the UK. We see groups of riders up to 20 strong now going out on the Sunday mornings, which we haven't seen for a long time. Most of them have been single riders, 2 riders, maybe 3, or going out for a private coffee. But now the clubs are back. So,
yeah, fantastic.
What I was going to say is, from what I'm seeing, the rule is largely being acknowledged. The motorists are taking
That's
care,
great.
which is fantastic. Yeah.
Now, John, you did promise Ian Thomas you'd get back to this. It would be interesting to hear your takes on the sanctions of Gazprom and other Russian links in the peloton, including the riders. My take off the bat is it's very unfortunate because, you know, this whole country is led by one madman and what he's doing. And then the flow-on effect with all the other people associated, that's the unfortunate part. And we were talking about it on Tuesday. You know, the global peloton is pretty tight unit. And there are going to be Russian riders out there that are like, you know, this isn't my beliefs. This isn't what I want to go with. But with a company like Gazprom and all that sort of stuff, I mean, I understand it. But there's going to be so many people also connected that, you know, just like, well, you know, I don't believe in what's happening. So it's a real tough one.
Well, I got to say, this is a terrible situation. You know, one of my best mates, Vazzy, is Ukrainian descent, and so you know we were talking about this morning. There is no reason for Russia to be invading. The bullshit about you know, one little enclave where it's really Russian anyway, and they're trying to say that's all crap. And so we all know the real reasons they're coming in. So what do? You can't sit back and do nothing. So, you know, the scary part is of what happens in Russia is that 80% of the Russian population believe that it was Ukrainians who shot down that Malaysian airline, which of course we know it wasn't. So there is, you've got a country that aren't getting the true story of what's happening around the world. So the only way to make them realise what's going on is to do things like that. Now, I feel sorry for the riders, but and matter of fact, at the moment, any Russian rider who's in another team, they probably should almost think about not letting them start either. It's the type of action that needs to be taken because what they're doing now, they're hitting him with his bank accounts. And now the Russian dollar is falling dramatically, or the Russian, what's it called? The rupee. The rupee. Ruble. That's dropped dramatically. These are the things that are going to have more action. Then the Russian people will say, what's going on here? They don't know. Only a couple of years ago, they all loved Putin. They didn't know that he is actually a tyrant. Well,
he's a madman. He's not anything. He's just a total madman. And like all dictators are, they are possessive. And they tell nobody. He never comes to the front line. He lets his puppets and the
I found it really strange. Really strange. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had the Winter Olympics. And who was one of the very few world leaders to be there at the Winter Olympics out of Beijing there was Putin. Now, here we are. The Winter Olympics are on. Russia weren't even allowed to compete. Their athletes had to compete not under the Russian name, under an independent Russian name. And yet Putin is there as a VIP. That was weird.
Well, unfortunately, the IOC is riddled in politics, and that's the problem. They've come out and allowed Belarus and Russia to take part. They're not going to allow them to be scoring medals. They won't be counted in the medal table, and they're not allowed to say which country they're competing for. So they're anonymous but the only reason they've left them in the games, my personal protest will be I shan't watch any Paralympics on television. And unfortunately, the great stories that come from those brave people who do take part, I won't know about. because I can't do any other form of protest. I think I admire the football associations around the world. They came out the very next day. They pulled the world, the championship finals out of Russia immediately and sent them to Paris. All of the countries, Belarus and Russia, are banned from footballing around the world now. That was Trish just got up. And we've also got the cyclists have been a bit slow, but they're coming. And now we've got the situation with Gazprom. I'm very, very bitter about the whole thing. I feel sorry for the Russian athletes, the true athletes who don't even live in Russia these days. They live around the world. And people like Pavel Sivakov, I was alongside him when he tweeted the fact that please don't tar everybody with the same brush. We are Russian by birthright, but we do not agree with what our country does. And as you know, there's been at least 6,000 people put in jail in Russia for demonstrating against the war. A war is a word you cannot use in Russia because that's what Putin says it is. It's a correction. And the man is completely crazy. And you can't. The biggest fear the world has, he'll push the nuke button, and he's mad enough to do that.
I think he's crazy like a fox.
Totally
he's a gangster. I don't know how crazy. He's a gangster.
You know, he's a complete. Dictators always are. This is it. They keep anybody. They've killed it 3 years ago with the situation with the Russian guy in Salisbury, where they sent a member of the KGB over and poisoned him.
Well, they reckon they probably there was one of the, what do you call those billionaires, ugly arts or whatever they call one who was supposed to have hung himself last night in London, just out of London. Well, they reckon he didn't. They reckon he's got murdered. Multi-billionaire, last night.
Geez. Is this a cycling podcast? What is going on?
Well, Chelsea Football Club, which won in their round of the FA Cup last night, he's had, I think it's 3 bidders to buy the club now. This is Abramovich, and he is prepared to sell it at just over $6 million. $6 billion.
Not Russian dollars, I hope.
Yeah. The thing is, I wouldn't want to put $6 billion into the Russian economy right now.
No.
And we don't know where Abramovich stands. He has said that all his money will go to help the people in the dispute, both sides. But I wouldn't trust anybody right now at the moment.
Free Ranger wants to know how's Kureka going, Phil.
Right. Well, I'm delighted to say we're going. And we're now
back.
only 45 days away from being in the game reserve at Krieka. And all the clients have paid up totally all their monies now. So we're in the process of arranging the mountain bikes, arranging transport for them. We can't wait to get there. There's Tandy with one of her cars. We should find her and see her in reality. And we might even be sat on a mountain bike when we do find it in the bush. Everybody is over the moon. And my thanks to everybody concerned who stayed with us for all of these years. And at the 3rd attempt, it's going to happen. All my air tickets are booked. I've got all the jabs. Mind you, COVID's gone from here now. We don't talk about it here anymore.
Oh, we'll have to do a live cross when you're there with the crew.
Hey, I'd love to do that. I'm sure everybody won't forget what you guys did during the last year or so when we actually raised $50,000 to keep this place in being. And the people who are working on it as well. So, no, we're over the moon. We're absolutely over the moon.
Fantastic.
And nice to see that Matty White's got giant bikes because that's who we've been negotiating with for the mountain bikes.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's going to happen, and I can't wait. Yeah.
Good on you, Phil. Hey, thanks for being on the show, Phil. You're an absolute legend. Good stuff.
We haven't talked much about we haven't talked much about the Paris-Nice, you know. And I like the Paris-Nice, my favourite bike race. I haven't been for 30 years. Though.
We'll be discussing it in depth next week, and when we're right in the middle of it. Right in the middle. We'll get
all
you
I'm
on.
going to say is I hope they still put the mimosa plant underneath the saddles for the last 2 days of the race through Provence, because that is the sign of spring, and the new season is round the corner.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. As we always say, youtube.com/the Detour Podcast. Before we go.
Yeah, just want to look a big shout out to all the Woods family, to Megan, Paris, Kennedy, and Devon, and of course to brother Paul and Dad Des. All our thoughts are with you.
Absolutely.
And just thinking of you guys.
He gave me great memories in my reporting career and my deepest sympathies.
Thanks very much, guys. We'll be back again soon. Next week, Thursday, Australian Eastern Standard Time, 6:30. Thanks for the support. Bye.
This is the